The church smelled like wilted lilies and old secrets, both of which had followed Evelyn Mercer to her grave. Snow hammered against the stained glass windows as if the winter itself was trying to get inside, trying to say something no one wanted to hear. The pews were only half full, mostly neighbors who came out of obligation, people who barely knew her. Her children sat in the front row, their postures stiff, their faces arranged into masks of grief that didn't quite fit. Michael, the eldest, kept checking his watch as if the funeral were making him late for something important. Claire dabbed beneath her eyes, though they were suspiciously dry. And Andrew, the quiet one, the forgotten one, sat slightly apart from them, staring at the closed casket with a stillness that made everyone uncomfortable. No one cried. Not really. Not for her. The priest droned through a scripted eulogy about kindness and motherhood, none of it remotely true. But nobody corrected him. Nobody dared say Evelyn hadn't been kind, or nurturing, or the woman everyone claimed to admire. Because whatever she had truly been, she had chosen to take it with her. Or so everyone thought. The doors creaked open mid-ceremony. A gust of cold air rushed in, trailing snow across the aisle like scattered ashes. And then he appeared. A young man, too young to belong here, too handsome to be forgotten, too calm to be merely lost, stepped into the church dressed in a crisp black coat that didn't match his worn boots. His dark hair was wet from the storm, his jaw tense, his eyes fixed on the casket, as though he'd been staring at it for years. Every head turned. Claire's hand froze midair. Michael straightened, suspicion sharpening his gaze. Andrew blinked, recognizing something in the stranger's face he couldn't name. The young man walked past everyone and stood before the casket with a reverence none of Evelyn's children had shown. His hand trembled as he touched the wood, just for a second, just enough to reveal something raw. Grief, longing, regret. Something intimate. And then he spoke. Evelyn Mercer didn't die of heart failure. The priest stuttered mid-sentence. Whispering rippled through the church like a spark racing through dry timber. Michael stood. "Excuse me, who the hell are you?" The young man ignored him. His voice grew steadier, colder, carrying a truth too heavy for the room. "She didn't collapse in her kitchen. She didn't just fall. She was terrified. She told me everything before she—" "Stop talking." Claire's voice cracked. "You don't know our mother." He turned slowly toward her. "Oh, I knew her," he said, "better than any of you ever did." A suffocating silence fell. Andrew felt something inside him shift, a small snap like a brittle branch breaking under ice. The stranger reached into his coat and placed an envelope on top of the casket. It was creased, water-stained, and sealed in red wax. Evelyn's handwriting curled across the front. "For my children, if you still call yourselves that." Michael lunged forward, snatching the envelope before anyone else could, but the young man held his wrist with a grip far stronger than expected. "Do not open that here," he said. "You won't survive it." "And why's that?" Michael spit out. The young man hesitated, pain flickering in his eyes. Then, "Because she left everything to me." The church erupted, gasps, denials, accusations, a sudden storm of outrage and disbelief. Claire rose to her feet, shaking. "This is a joke, a sick one." Andrew whispered, almost to himself, "Why would she do that?" The young man finally stepped back, his voice trembling with something deeper than sorrow. "Because I am not who you think I am," he said, "and neither was she." Someone dropped a hymnal. The sound echoed like a gunshot. The priest tried to speak, but the young man had already turned away, heading for the doors, leaving confusion and fury in his wake. Just before he stepped out into the storm, he looked over his shoulder. "You should know," he said quietly. "Your mother didn't fear dying. She feared you finding out the truth." The doors slammed shut behind him. And for the first time since the funeral began, Evelyn's children finally felt something real. Not grief, not loss, but dread. The storm had swallowed the stranger before anyone could follow him. By the time Michael burst out of the church, breath steaming in the frozen air, the parking lot was empty. Just swirling snow and the choking quiet of a world refusing to offer answers. Inside, people began leaving, whispering as they passed Evelyn's children, giving them those pitying looks reserved for families caught in scandal. Claire sank onto the first pew as though someone had pulled the spine out of her. Andrew stood near the casket, staring at the place where the envelope had rested. Everything felt crooked, tilted, as if the truth had walked out the door with that young man. Michael returned, brushing snow from his shoulders, jaw clenched tight. "He's gone," Claire muttered. "Good. Let him stay gone." But she didn't sound convinced. The priest approached gently. "Perhaps this conversation is better continued at home." Michael shot him a look sharp enough to cut. "No, we're staying. We need to open this." He held up the envelope, the thing none of them could stop staring at. The red wax was cracked from where he'd gripped it too hard. Evelyn's handwriting seemed to taunt them, delicate curls of ink that felt suddenly cruel. Andrew swallowed. "He said not to open it here." "And you believe him?" Michael snapped. "Some random kid who shows up at Mom's funeral claiming she left him everything?" Claire wiped a trembling hand across her face. "He knew her name. He knew about the kitchen. He touched the casket like someone who actually loved her." "That doesn't mean anything," Michael said. But even he didn't believe that. They moved into a small side room the church used for storage. Folding chairs, hymnals, dusty choir robes. The air felt stale, trapped, as if secrets tended to linger in places like this. Michael placed the envelope on a table and slid a finger under the flap. "Wait." Andrew's voice was quiet but firm. "Don't tear it. Let me." Michael rolled his eyes but stepped back. Andrew opened the envelope as though it were fragile bone, something that might crumble if handled too roughly. Inside were 3 pages, handwritten. No lawyer letterhead, no witnesses, no legal staples, just Evelyn's voice in uneven script, as though she wrote it when her hands were shaking. Claire hugged her coat around her. "Read it," Andrew began. "My children, if you're holding this letter, then you are already angry, maybe confused, maybe horrified. Good, you should be." Michael snorted. "Sounds like her." Andrew kept reading, breath shallow. "What I'm about to admit is not for forgiveness. I don't want it. But you deserve the truth more than you deserve the money you're expecting." Claire flinched. "There is someone you don't know, someone who deserved more than the life I forced on him. His name is Lucas. You saw him today. Silence fell heavy, like more snow piling up on a roof ready to collapse. He is not my lover. He is not my caretaker. He is not what you think." Michael huffed. "So what is he?" Andrew continued, voice tightening. "He is my son, born long before any of you. Born from a life you know nothing about, and a mistake I paid for every day." Claire's hand shot to her mouth. Michael swore under his breath. Andrew felt a strange, electric cold crawl beneath his skin. "I gave him up when I was 18. I never told your father. I never told any of you. And he never forgave me. Not fully. I don't blame him." Claire whispered, "She had another child?" Michael paced the room like a caged animal. "This doesn't make sense. Why would she give him everything? Why now?" Andrew kept reading. "Because he asked for nothing. Because he was the only one who came back without wanting something from me. Because he is the only person I truly failed." The room felt smaller, hotter, meaner. "I know this will break you. Maybe it should. Families built on silence eventually collapse. I am just saving you the slow suffering of pretending we were whole." Andrew stopped reading as the last line carved itself into him. "Lucas knows the truth about your father. I hope you survive it better than I did." No signature, just the end. A brutal, abrupt end. Claire leaned back as if struck. Her eyes were glassy, unfocused. "She lied to us our whole lives." Michael's voice was low, almost calm, the kind of calm that comes just before violence. "We don't know if any of this is real. Anyone could have written it." "You recognized her handwriting," Andrew murmured. Michael ignored him. "We go home. We call her lawyer. We confirm everything. That kid, Lucas, he's not taking what's ours." "Our?" Andrew said quietly. "Or yours?" Michael shot him a glare that could kill. But Claire cut in. "He said she was scared of us finding something out." Michael grabbed the letter off the table. "Then we find it out first." Andrew felt something cold settle in his chest. The storm outside rattled the windows as if echoing Evelyn's warning. They didn't notice the janitor outside the door, frozen mid-motion, holding a trash bag. Silent, listening, eyes wide. He stepped away quickly when Michael stormed out, slamming the door open. The funeral was over. But something far uglier had only just begun. As they walked out into the snow, none of them noticed another set of footprints leading away from the church. Small, precise, fresh, as if Lucas had been waiting for them to read the letter, as if he knew exactly what would happen next, and as if he wanted it. The Mercer house looked different the moment they pulled into the driveway, as if it were shrinking under the weight of the storm. The roof sagged with snow, the shutters clattered against the wind, and the porch light flickered like an old heartbeat refusing to give out. Andrew was the first to step out of the car. He stood for a moment, staring at the place he'd grown up, the place that held every argument, every bruise of memory, every silence that shaped them. The house didn't feel empty. It felt watchful. Michael went straight for the front door with the urgency of someone reclaiming territory. Claire followed, pulling her coat tight, her heels sinking into the slush. Inside, the air was stale and cold. No one had lived here for weeks, yet nothing was out of place. Evelyn's blanket still folded perfectly on the couch, her reading glasses left upside down on the coffee table, the faint scent of lavender clinging to the walls. It felt wrong, cruelly preserved. Michael turned on the lights, their harsh glow cutting through the dimness. We're searching every inch of this place. I want to know what she meant about Dad. I want to know what that kid, Lucas, thinks he knows. Claire hesitated. Maybe we shouldn't do this tonight. We're exhausted, emotional. We don't have time to be emotional, Michael snapped. We need facts. Andrew wandered toward the dining room, drawn to something he couldn't name. He ran his fingers over the long wooden table. He could still hear the ghosts of raised voices, his father shouting, his mother pleading, the three siblings sitting stiff while pretending everything was fine. Michael started rifling through drawers, cabinets, papers. We find the will, the real one, not whatever story that kid came up with. Claire drifted toward the staircase like someone walking through a dream. She touched the railing gently. She used to stand right here and listen to us fight. Andrew swallowed. She always listened. No, Claire whispered. She waited. Her words hung in the air like frost. Suddenly, something crashed in the kitchen, sharp, metallic. Michael spun around. What the hell was that? Andrew crossed the hallway quickly, heart thudding. When he pushed open the kitchen door, cold air rushed over him. The back door was slightly ajar, snow gathering on the floor. The wind groaned through the crack. Did you leave this open? He called out. Michael appeared behind him. No. Claire's voice trembled from the dining room. Someone's been here. Andrew scanned the floor. The fresh snow prints led only one step inside, then vanished where the linoleum dried, as if someone had opened the door, looked in, and left again. Michael grabbed a kitchen knife from the block. If he came here, if Lucas thinks he can just walk into our house. He was at the church, Andrew said. Why would he come here now? Because he wants something, Michael growled, and we're not giving it to him. Claire appeared in the doorway, pale as the snow outside. I found something. She held a small tin box, old, dented, painted with faded violets. Their mother's handwriting was scrawled on top, "Not until I'm gone." Michael snatched it from her. You found this in her room? In her closet, behind the boxes of blankets, she said. I didn't know she had a lockbox. Andrew stepped closer. Open it. Michael hesitated. Not long, but long enough to betray something, fear or maybe anticipation. Then he pried it open. Inside were letters, dozens of them. Different paper, different handwriting, different years, all signed, Lucas. Claire reached for one. She kept everything he ever sent. Michael grabbed it first and unfolded it. The letter was written in shaky teenage handwriting. Dear Mom, I don't know why you gave me away, but I hope someday you'll tell me. I'm not mad. I just want to know you. Please write back. Lucas Michael crumpled the letter, face twisting. She had a whole other life, a whole other child. Claire dug deeper in the box and froze when she pulled out a second envelope, one thicker, heavier, stamped with an official seal. Andrew felt the room contract. What's that? He whispered. Claire slid a trembling finger under the flap and unfolded the papers inside. Her breath caught. It's a police report. Michael snatched it. Police report for what? He scanned it, eyes narrowing. Domestic disturbance, he said slowly. Filed by Evelyn Mercer. Andrew blinked. She reported Dad? Michael kept reading, his voice flattening. Witness, Lucas Hale, age 16. Claire covered her mouth. He met her when he was already a teenager. He came back to find her. Andrew stepped closer. His heart pounded once, hard. What did Dad do? Michael said nothing. He kept reading. His face went white. He looked up slowly, and for the first time in years, he seemed afraid. He held the report out for them to see. Allegation, physical assault. Victim, Evelyn Mercer. Minor present at scene. Case closed at request of victim. Reason, for the sake of the children. Claire staggered back, hitting the counter. Andrew felt the floor tilt beneath him. Their father had hurt their mother, and she stayed quiet to protect them. And Lucas, a stranger, a secret, had witnessed it. Michael slammed the report on the counter. "No, this is bullshit. She would have told us. We lived here. We would have known." Andrew whispered, "We did know. We just didn't understand." A sudden thump echoed upstairs. Soft. Quick. Claire gasped, "Someone's here." Michael tightened his grip on the kitchen knife. "Stay here." But Andrew had already moved, drawn upward by something deeper than fear. He reached the top of the staircase and froze. A shadow moved across the hallway, quick, deliberate, toward Evelyn's old bedroom. "Who's there?" Andrew called. Silence answered. He stepped forward, pulse hammering. The bedroom door creaked open. Inside, the curtains swayed in the cold air leaking through the cracked window. Evelyn's bed was neatly made, untouched. Her jewelry box was open on the dresser, something she hadn't done in years. And then Andrew saw it, a single footprint in the thin layer of dust on the floor. Not his, not Michael's, not Claire's. Smaller, distinct, fresh. He knelt down, fingertips trembling above it. "Lucas?" he whispered. Behind him, the door clicked shut, and the room plunged into darkness. Andrew's breath hitched as the door clicked shut behind him. The cold swallowed the room instantly, turning the air sharp enough to cut. His pulse hammered in his throat as his eyes adjusted to the darkness, to the vague shapes he once knew. His mother's dresser, the quilt she'd kept from her own childhood, the rocking chair by the window. "Who's here?" he whispered, though he already knew the answer he feared most. Silence stretched, thin and brittle. He reached for the light switch. It didn't work. The bulb overhead flickered once, then died completely, leaving only the thin strip of winter light leaking through the cracked window. His skin prickled. A shift in the darkness, quiet, deliberate. Someone was in the room. "Lucas," he said, steadier this time. "If you're here, just say something." Still nothing. Andrew backed toward the door, reaching behind him for the knob. It didn't turn. Locked. From the outside. "Michael?" he called. "Claire? Is this some kind of—" A voice surfaced behind him, low and almost gentle. "No one locked you in." Andrew spun, heart slamming, eyes struggling to find the source. The voice had come from near the dresser, but the shadows were too thick, too patient. "Where are you?" Andrew whispered. A faint shape separated itself from the darkness, lean, slow-moving, cautious. The outline of a man, young, tall, shoulders tense beneath a worn jacket. Andrew's throat tightened. "Lucas." The figure didn't answer. He moved closer, the floor creaking under his weight. When he stepped into the thin line of dim light, Andrew finally saw him fully. Lucas looked colder than the room, his face pale from the storm, his hair damp, his eyes not angry, but bruised somehow, as if carrying years of things no one ever helped him hold. "You shouldn't be here," Andrew said quietly. Lucas tilted his head, studying him. "Neither should you." Andrew swallowed hard. "This is our home." "Was?" Lucas said. "It was your home." "Was?" Andrew echoed. "What's that supposed to mean?" Lucas's jaw tensed. "I read the lease transfer. I know the date. Your mother changed everything weeks before she died." Andrew stared at him. He doesn't want revenge, Andrew realized. He wants acknowledgement, recognition, something painfully human. "What do you want from us?" Andrew asked. Lucas stepped closer. "The truth." Before Andrew could respond, the hallway erupted with footsteps. "Andrew!" Michael's voice thundered from outside. "Open this damn door!" Andrew jerked toward the sound. "Michael, it's stuck." "I can't." The knob rattled violently. "Andrew, move!" A heavy slam shook the door. Lucas's expression tightened. He stepped back into the shadows like he'd done this his whole life. "Don't tell them I was here," he murmured. Another slam. Andrew whispered, "Why not?" Lucas's eyes flicked toward the window. "Because they won't listen. They'll just fight. And this isn't about fighting." "What is it about?" Lucas hesitated, then answered with something that chilled Andrew deeper than the cold. "It's about why she was scared of them." The door splintered slightly under Michael's next hit. Lucas turned toward the cracked window, pushing it farther open. Snow blew in, stinging Andrew's cheeks. "You shouldn't do this," Andrew said. "They'll think you're dangerous." Lucas climbed onto the windowsill, boots crunching on shards of ice. "I'm not the one you should be afraid of," he murmured. Then he vanished into the storm. The door burst open at that exact moment, Michael stumbling forward with the knife still in hand. Claire stood behind him, trembling. Michael scanned the room. "Where the hell is he?" Andrew pointed to the window, stunned. He was here, just now." Claire froze. You saw him? Andrew nodded. Michael moved to the window, staring out into the swirling white. He broke into this house. He's unstable. Who knows what he wants? Andrew's voice was thin. He didn't hurt me. Michael snorted. That's not comfort, Andrew. Claire wrapped her arms around herself. Did he say anything? Andrew hesitated. Lucas's last words echoed in his mind. It's about why she was scared of them. He swallowed. He said, Mom changed the house paperwork before she died. Michael spun. He's lying, manipulating you. That's what people like him do. Andrew flinched. People like him? Michael turned sharply. Yes. Strangers who show up out of nowhere claiming to be family. You don't know him. You don't know what he's capable of. Andrew whispered, We didn't know what Dad was capable of either. The room went silent. Claire's eyes welled with something fragile, something old. We can't stay here tonight, not after this. But Michael shook his head. We're not leaving. Not while he's out there. Not while he thinks he has a claim on this house. He does have a claim, Andrew said. Mom said, I don't care what that letter said, Michael snapped. He's not taking this family from me. Andrew stared at him. This family? From him? Something cracked inside Andrew then. Something small but undeniable. He saw Michael not as the responsible older brother, but as a man terrified of losing power he always assumed was his. Claire whispered, We should call the police. Michael laughed a short, cold laugh. And tell them what? That our long-lost brother climbed through a window and read our mother's secrets? They'll ask questions we're not ready to answer. Andrew felt that last line cut through him like a blade. Questions we're not ready to answer. The storm rattled the window. The house groaned around them. Shadows crawled across the walls like living things. Andrew looked down at the single footprint in the dust, Lucas's footprint, already beginning to fade under the draft from the window. He had the sudden, sinking feeling that they were running out of time. Then Claire spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. What if he comes back? Andrew didn't know how to answer. Michael did. He won't, Michael said coldly, because next time I'll be ready for him. Outside, buried in the wind, a faint silhouette moved through the snow, watching, waiting, listening. And the house, old, tired, full of ghosts, seemed to recognize him, as if it remembered him, as if it had been waiting for him too. The storm died sometime after midnight, but the silence it left behind felt wrong, too thick, too expectant, as if the world were holding its breath. Michael hadn't slept. He paced the living room like a caged animal, the kitchen knife still sitting on the coffee table in front of him. Claire dozed on the couch under Evelyn's old quilt, waking every few minutes with a shiver or half-choked cry. Andrew sat in the armchair opposite Michael, staring into the dark hallway where the shadows seemed deeper than they should be. None of them talked about Lucas breaking in. None of them talked about the police report. But the house remembered. And so did they. At 3:14 a.m., Michael suddenly stopped pacing. I'm done waiting, he said. Andrew blinked. For what? For answers. Michael grabbed the letter from his pocket, the one that said Lucas was Evelyn's firstborn, the one that revealed their father's violence. He tossed it onto the coffee table as though burning it were the next step. We're calling her lawyer, now. Claire sat up, bleary-eyed. It's the middle of the night. I don't care. Michael, you want to know the truth or not, he snapped. Claire fell silent. Andrew exhaled slowly. Fine. Call. Michael pulled out his phone and dialed. The ring cut through the house, sharp and unwelcome. On the fourth ring, a groggy voice answered. Hello? It's Michael Mercer. A pause. Long. Cautious. I'm sorry for your loss, the lawyer said, voice thick with sleep. It's late, Michael. What happened? Michael didn't waste time. We found a letter about Lucas. Another pause. Shorter. Sharper. I see, the lawyer said quietly. Michael's jaw tightened. Is he really our mother's son? Yes. Claire's breath hitched. Andrew closed his eyes. Michael's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. Did she really change the will? Yes, the lawyer repeated. 3 weeks before her death. No, Michael whispered. You're lying. I have the signed documents in my office. Let me see them. You will, at the reading. When is it? Tomorrow morning, 10. Michael's hand twitched. Why didn't you tell us earlier? Because she asked me not to, the lawyer said. She was afraid. Michael flinched. Afraid of what? Of what you might do. Michael's eyes darkened. Excuse me? The lawyer hesitated. She wasn't talking about you specifically. She meant all of you, the family. Andrew sat forward. She said that? Yes. Why? Claire whispered. The lawyer exhaled. Because what's in the will might destroy what's left of your family if you aren't careful. Michael's voice cracked like ice. What did she leave him? I'm not discussing that over the phone, the lawyer replied gently. We follow the legal process. I expect you all at the reading. Michael ended the call without saying goodbye. Silence swallowed the room. Claire folded into herself. She was afraid of us. She shouldn't have been, Andrew murmured. Michael finally lost the fragile grip he'd kept on his emotions. He swept the knife off the table, sending it clattering across the floor. Enough, he said, voice shaking with fury. I'm not letting that kid walk in and tear everything apart. Mom was confused. She was manipulated. He wants something. Money, the house, all of it. He's our brother, Andrew said. No, Michael snapped. He's a stranger. Andrew held his gaze. She kept his letters for 20 years. That doesn't make him a stranger. Michael froze, stunned by the quiet force in Andrew's voice. Before either could speak again, Claire whispered, What if Lucas didn't come here to take anything? Michael scoffed. Then why break into the house? Maybe he wasn't breaking in, she said. Maybe he was looking for something. Andrew felt a chill crawl up his spine. Something Mom hid. Michael rubbed his face with both hands. She probably hid a damn diary or something. A confession. Whatever Lucas thinks he knows, we'll see in the morning. Andrew didn't believe that. Not anymore. The secrets in this house were older than any piece of paper. At dawn, the storm clouds thinned. Light seeped through the windows like a slow awakening. Claire brewed coffee, her hands trembling so badly the spoon clattered against the mug. Andrew stared at the frost patterns on the glass, shapes that looked like claw marks stretching outward. Michael disappeared upstairs. Andrew eventually followed. The hallway was colder than the rest of the house. Evelyn's bedroom door was half open again, swaying with the draft. The footprint on the floor was almost gone now, smeared by the wind. Michael? Andrew called. In here. Andrew stepped into their parents' old bedroom, not Evelyn's, but the one their father once occupied before his death 5 years ago. Michael knelt beside the bed, rifling through a stack of boxes. What are you doing? Andrew asked. Looking for the truth Mom didn't trust us with. Andrew opened his mouth to stop him, but then something caught his eye. A wooden panel along the wall, scratched, slightly crooked, like it had been moved recently. Andrew approached it. His breath quickened. Michael, he whispered, come here. Michael looked up, irritated. What now? Andrew pressed his fingertips to the panel and pushed gently. It shifted. Michael froze. Is that? Andrew pulled it aside. Inside was a narrow cavity, cold, dusty. A hidden space someone had carved out years ago. Michael knelt beside him and reached inside, pulling out a small metal tin bound with a brittle leather strap. Neither spoke. The air seemed to hold its own breath. Andrew unlatched the strap and opened the tin. Inside were photographs. Old, weathered, some torn, some stained, all of Evelyn. Younger, bruised, terrified. In one photo, her cheek was swollen. In another, her lip split. In another, she held her arm at an angle that made Andrew's stomach turn. She was standing in the kitchen, the same kitchen they just searched, and in every photograph there was a small date written on the back. The dates spanned years. Michael stared in horror. No, that's not. Andrew lifted the final photograph. It was the worst. Evelyn stood in the same kitchen. A large handprint marred her face. Purple, angry, undeniable. The handwriting on the back was shaky. Lucas took this. He said no one would believe him. He was right. Michael stumbled back. Dad wasn't like that. He wasn't. He was, Andrew said softly, brokenly. We just didn't see it. We would have seen it, Michael insisted, voice cracking. We lived here. We were here every day. No, Andrew whispered. No, we weren't. They both froze as Claire appeared in the doorway, pale and shaken. Guys, she said, voice thin as frost. He's here. Andrew's stomach dropped. Who? Claire swallowed. Lucas. She pointed toward the living room. He's outside, waiting for us. Lucas stood at the edge of the Mercer lawn as if the snow itself had carried him there. Early sunlight stretched across the field, pale and unforgiving. It cast long shadows behind him, turning his figure into something stark and unplaceable. Half man, half memory. He didn't move, didn't flinch at the cold cutting across his face. He simply waited. Andrew, Michael, and Claire stood inside the living room, watching him through the frost-fogged window. Nobody spoke. Not at first. Lucas looked nothing like the intruder they'd imagined through a sleepless night. In the daylight, he seemed almost fragile, just a young man who had run out of places to belong. But there was something else too, a kind of quiet purpose, a weight behind the eyes. He's freezing, Claire whispered. Her voice cracked with a compassion she didn't know she still possessed. Michael crossed his arms. He chose to stand there. Andrew watched Lucas shiver once, then steady himself. He's waiting for us. For what? Michael snapped. A welcome party? For the will reading, Andrew said softly. For the truth. Michael's jaw tightened. The truth is, he wants something from us. Andrew didn't look away from the window. Everyone wants something. Michael glared. Not Mom. Andrew turned to him. She wanted safety. She wanted out. She wanted someone to listen. Michael flinched like he'd been struck. Claire's fingers curled against her sweater. We can't ignore him. He came here, calmly. Not like last night. Michael almost laughed. Breaking in is calm to you? He didn't threaten anyone, Claire murmured. He locked Andrew in a room. Andrew shook his head. No, the door jammed. He didn't lock me in. Michael stared at him. You're defending him. I'm not defending him, Andrew said quietly. I'm noticing him. Michael let out a long, shaky breath. We go outside together. Stay close. I don't trust him. Claire whispered. Do you trust anyone right now? Michael didn't answer. The front door opened with a groan that echoed across the empty yard. Snow crunched under their boots as they stepped out into the cold morning air. Lucas didn't move. When they reached him, he spoke without looking away from the house. She hated winter, he said softly. She said it reminded her of waiting for things that never came. Claire's breath caught. Andrew stepped closer. Lucas, why are you here? Lucas finally turned toward them. His face was red from the cold, eyes tired from a night without sleep. I didn't break in to scare you, he said. I broke in because she asked me to. Michael scoffed. She's dead. Lucas didn't blink. She asked me before she died. The wind stilled as if the world leaned closer. Andrew felt the back of his neck prickle. She knew something was coming. She knew everything was coming, Lucas said. Claire's voice trembled. What did she tell you? Lucas hesitated, as if choosing the least painful version of the truth. She said you three were too loyal to the memory of a man who hurt her, and that you'd never believe her unless you saw it yourselves. Michael bristled. We did see. The photographs. Lucas looked down, pain tightening his expression. I took those. I tried to get help once. I was just a kid. Nobody listened. What about the police report? Andrew asked. She filed it. I didn't know she pulled it back until years later. She did it for the sake of the children. He looked at them each in turn. You think that line means she loved him, but she meant she loved you. Claire swallowed a sob. Michael crossed his arms, but the anger in his posture felt forced now, hollow. Then why did she give you everything? Lucas exhaled slowly, fog curling from his mouth. She didn't give me everything. He paused. She took everything away from him. Andrew frowned. Who? Lucas looked toward the house, toward the old bedroom, toward the secrets still rotting in the walls. Your father, Lucas said. She changed the will the same day she found out the truth about his last financial decisions. What decisions? Michael demanded. Lucas didn't answer at first. He let the silence work, let the cold bite deeper. Then, your father left this house in debt. Big debt. Hidden debt. He forged Evelyn's signature to take out a second mortgage and lost it on a business deal that never existed. Michael's face drained of color. You're lying. Andrew stepped forward slowly. Lucas, how do you know this? I was with her when she confronted the bank. She showed them proof of the forgery. I sat beside her when the manager apologized. Claire covered her mouth. Oh my God. Michael shook his head violently. Dad wasn't a criminal. Lucas looked at him with a softness that felt almost cruel. People don't have to be criminals to destroy the people they claim to love. The comment sliced through Michael's armor. Andrew felt the pain in that line, the truth of it. Lucas continued, voice low but steady. She changed the will to make sure none of you inherited his debts. If the estate had gone to you three, you'd all be responsible. But if she transferred it to me, a son he never acknowledged, the legal loophole was clean. You're saying she sacrificed us? Michael said bitterly. Lucas shook his head. No, she shielded you. Claire wiped tears from her cheeks. She protected us from him, even after he died. Michael turned away, gripping the back of his head with both hands, as though trying to hold something in place before it shattered. Andrew stepped toward Lucas. Why didn't she tell us you were her son? Lucas hesitated again. This time, the hesitation was heavier. Harder. I asked her not to, he said quietly. Andrew's eyebrows pulled together. Why? Lucas finally met his eyes. Because I didn't want to take anything from you. Not your home. Not your mother. Not the version of your childhood you needed to survive. Claire's breath broke. Michael shook his head as if the world no longer made sense. Andrew whispered, Then why are you here now? Lucas's jaw tightened. Because someone changed the paperwork after she died. The cold slammed into them. Michael turned. What? Lucas pulled a folded document from his coat. This is the copy I got from the courthouse. Her original will was tampered with. The new signature isn't hers. And the date doesn't match. Andrew stepped closer. Tampered by who? Lucas didn't answer. He didn't have to. Slowly, painfully, all three siblings turned toward the house, the only other place where the truth could live. Claire whispered the question they all feared. Who else knew about the will? Michael froze. Andrew froze. The air froze. Lucas's answer was quiet. Someone who had access to her mail. Someone who lived in this house. Someone who knew she was dying before any of you did. Andrew's stomach dropped. Claire's knees buckled. Michael whispered, almost breathless, Dad? No, Lucas said. His expression darkened, colder than the snow, sharper than the morning light. Not him. He pointed toward the front door. Someone still alive. For a moment, no one breathed. The cold morning air felt suddenly heavier, as if the sky itself leaned closer to hear Lucas's next words. Claire was the first to find her voice. It broke like thin glass. Someone. Alive? She whispered. Lucas didn't look away from the front door. Someone who lived here, he said. Someone who knew your mother's routines. Someone who had a reason to change the will after she died. Andrew felt the back of his neck crawl. He followed Lucas's gaze. The front door. The house. The quiet. Michael swallowed hard. Who else has a key? Claire lowered her eyes. There's only... She stopped. Michael finished for her. The caretaker. Andrew blinked. Mrs. Dalton? She's 68. She barely moves without her walker. Lucas shook his head. Not her. She hasn't been in this house in months. Claire's face drained of color. Then, who? Lucas stepped forward, his voice steady. The neighbor. It took all three of them a second to process it. Andrew frowned. You mean Mr. Fletcher? Lucas nodded. He has copies of every key. Your mother trusted him more than the caretaker. He helped her after your father died. He drove her to the store, helped with repairs, checked her mail. Michael's jaw clenched. He's been here since we were kids. Yes, Lucas said quietly, which is exactly why she never suspected him. Claire wrapped her arms around herself. Why would he forge her signature? Why would he change the will? Lucas hesitated. What? Andrew pressed. He had her medical records, Lucas said. He knew she didn't have long. He knew she was losing weight, that her heart was failing. His eyes darkened. He knew she was vulnerable. Michael tensed. How do you know all this? Lucas reached into his coat and pulled out another envelope, smaller, wrinkled, water-stained around the edges. She gave me this, he said, 2 days before she died. Andrew's heart slammed. You saw her that recently? Lucas nodded once. Claire's voice broke. Why didn't she tell us she was dying? Lucas met her eyes, not unkindly, but honestly. She tried. Silence cracked across the snow like lightning. Michael took a step forward, face twisting. Bullshit. She would have called. She did call, Lucas said. She called all of you. Claire pressed a hand to her mouth. Michael shook his head violently. No, I never. You didn't pick up, Lucas said. None of you did. I was with her when she tried. The silence became a wound. Claire's knees buckled and she sank onto the porch step. Tears slid down her cheeks, but she didn't wipe them away. Michael stared into nothing, jaw clenched so tightly the muscle twitched. Andrew felt numbness spreading through his limbs. We didn't know, Andrew whispered. Lucas exhaled deeply, not accusatory, not triumphant, just tired. I know. He handed Andrew the envelope. She wanted you to have this, Lucas said. But she was scared you wouldn't believe it coming from me. Andrew opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a note in her handwriting. Small, shaky, painful. I don't have much time. The pain comes in waves now. If you're reading this, it means you've finally started listening. I need you to know something before it's too late. Andrew swallowed hard. Someone has been taking money from my accounts. Someone who knows my passwords and receives my mail. Someone I trusted. Please be careful. Don't confront him alone, and don't let him tell you I'm confused or forgetful. I know exactly what I saw." The last line was carved into the page. "Tell Lucas I'm sorry. Tell my children to forgive me, and forgive themselves." Andrew lowered the note. His hands shook uncontrollably. Claire sobbed into her palms. Michael stared at Lucas with new eyes. Not hatred, not fear, but something wounded and lost. Andrew felt something shift inside him, like a lock clicking open after decades. "Why did she trust him?" Claire whispered. "Why Mr. Fletcher?" Lucas looked toward the tall hedge separating their yard from the neighbors. The house beyond sat quiet, smoke curling from its chimney like nothing was wrong. "He was kind to her," Lucas said softly. "He helped when your father didn't. She thought he was harmless. But the most dangerous people are the ones who know how to look harmless." Michael whispered, "How long has this been going on?" Lucas closed his eyes for a moment, as if steadiness required effort. "Years." The word dropped like a stone. Andrew felt nausea roll through him. Claire stared at her gloves, as if guilt had embedded itself into the fabric. Michael shook his head, fury and disbelief tangling together. "So what now?" Michael asked. "Like, what the hell are we supposed to do with this?" Lucas looked at each of them in turn. "We go to the will reading," he said quietly. "Together." Michael scoffed. "Why? So you can take everything officially?" Lucas's expression didn't change. "I don't want the house," he said. "I don't want the debt. I don't want your mother's things." "Then what do you want?" Andrew asked. Lucas's eyes softened with something impossibly sad. "The truth," he said, "and for someone else to want it too." Slowly, his gaze drifted back toward the neighbor's hedge. "And for him to stop pretending he's the only one who loved her." A cold wind swept across the yard, rustling the dead branches. In the distance, a door shut. Footsteps crunched on gravel. All four turned. On the porch of the yellow house next door, Mr. Fletcher stood with a mug in his hand, staring across the yard at them. His smile was warm, too warm. He lifted his hand in a friendly wave. Claire's breath caught. Michael stiffened. Andrew felt the air change. Lucas didn't move. He simply watched. The smile faded from Mr. Fletcher's face as he slowly lowered his mug. He knew. They knew. The wind carried the smell of burnt leaves, winter, and something new, danger. And for the first time since Evelyn died, the Mercer children understood something they had never realized. They weren't the only ones hiding secrets, and they weren't the only ones watching. The four of them stood frozen as Mr. Fletcher lowered his mug, his smile fading into something unreadable, something that knew, something that waited. Lucas didn't look away from him. Neither did Andrew. The cold between the two houses no longer felt like winter. It felt like warning. "Get inside," Michael muttered, jaw clenched. Claire took a shaky step back. "Is he watching us?" "Oh, he's doing more than watching," Lucas murmured. "He's measuring." "Measuring what?" Andrew asked. "How scared you are." A chill slid down Andrew's spine, colder than the wind. He turned toward the front door, but just as he reached it, "Morning!" Mr. Fletcher's voice rang across the yard, cheerful, casual, too practiced. The kind of voice that had fooled their mother for years. Michael stiffened. "Don't respond." But Mr. Fletcher was already crossing the yard, boots crunching steadily through the snow. Lucas's body tensed beside Andrew, not in fear, but in recognition. Andrew whispered, "You know him, don't you?" Lucas's jaw tightened. "I know his kind." Mr. Fletcher reached the edge of the Mercer porch with perfect neighborly ease. His cheeks were pink from the cold, his eyes bright, his smile soft. He looked like the kind of man who brought brownies to potlucks and remembered kids' birthdays. He also looked like the kind of man who knew exactly how to hide a crime in kindness. "Well," he said, hands tucked warmly into his coat pockets, "you're all up early." Michael stepped forward, blocking him. "What do you want?" Mr. Fletcher blinked innocently. "To say good morning." Claire flinched at the gentleness in his tone. Andrew felt his stomach knot. Michael did not move. "We're having a private conversation." "Of course you are." Mr. Fletcher's eyes shifted toward Lucas, lingering just a moment too long. "You have company." Lucas didn't blink. "We're aware." Mr. Fletcher's smile grew, too soft, too slow, too knowing. "You know," he said casually, "I was very fond of your mother." Claire exhaled shakily. Andrew felt something twist hard inside him. "I helped her with the house after your father passed," Mr. Fletcher continued. "She depended on me. She trusted me. We were very close." The word hung there, sour and heavy. Lucas's hands curled into fists. Michael stepped forward, voice low. You don't need to remind us. Of course, Mr. Fletcher said smoothly. I only mean to help. He paused. As I always have. The implication wasn't subtle. Claire whispered, Why didn't you tell us she was sick? Mr. Fletcher tilted his head, as if genuinely puzzled. She didn't want me to. Said she needed time to think. Said she'd call you when she was ready. His smile softened. She loved you, even when you made it hard. Andrew felt a bolt of shame and anger collide in his chest. Lucas spoke for the first time. You saw her medical mail. Mr. Fletcher's smile cooled. I brought it in for her. You sorted it, Lucas said. I did what she asked, Mr. Fletcher corrected, voice sharpening just slightly. She wasn't always strong enough to read everything. Lucas stepped closer. You had access to her accounts. Mr. Fletcher's eyes hardened, just for a fraction of a second, just long enough for Andrew to see the truth flicker beneath. You should leave, Michael growled. Mr. Fletcher gave a small, amused exhale. This is still a free country, Michael. I can stand wherever I like. Lucas took another step forward, and Andrew grabbed his arm before he did something irreversible. Lucas, Andrew murmured. Don't. Lucas didn't pull away, but he didn't soften either. Mr. Fletcher clasped his hands behind his back. I do hope you're not planning anything foolish. Evelyn was complicated. She made mistakes. People like to blame others when they can't blame the dead. Claire shut her eyes. Andrew felt something cold and sharp bloom behind his ribs. She was scared, Andrew whispered. Mr. Fletcher gave him a warm, paternal smile. She was lonely. She warned us, Andrew said, about someone she trusted. For the first time, the neighbor's smile faltered, just a flicker, barely a breath. Then it returned. I'm sure she did, he said softly. People get confused near the end. Claire snapped. She wasn't confused. Mr. Fletcher looked at her with sad patience. Grief makes us rewrite memories, Claire. Michael took a step forward. Leave. Now. Mr. Fletcher studied their faces, one by one. Lucas's fury, Claire's trembling fear, Andrew's dawning clarity, Michael's rage. Then he smiled a final time, calm, controlled, certain. Be careful, he said. None of you know half of what she was dealing with. Pretending you understand now won't save you. For a moment, it sounded like a threat. Then he turned and walked back across the yard, boots crunching in perfect rhythm. His silhouette disappeared behind the hedge, swallowed by the morning light. No one spoke. No one moved. Claire broke the silence first. He did it, she whispered. He changed the will. He stole from her. Michael shook his head. We don't have proof. Lucas looked toward the hedge, eyes dark. Yet. Andrew felt something shift inside him, an understanding heavy enough to hurt. This wasn't about inheritance anymore. It wasn't about secrets. It wasn't even about Lucas. It was about Evelyn, what she endured, who she trusted, and why she was scared. He finally spoke, voice low but steady. So what now? Lucas's gaze didn't leave the hedge. Now, he said, we stop pretending this was ever just a family problem. The cold deepened. Wind scraped along the siding of the house. Somewhere distant, a dog barked once and fell silent again. Michael turned toward the front door. We'll be late for the will reading. Claire nodded shakily. Andrew lingered, staring at the hedge until the wind shifted and the branches parted just enough for him to see the neighbor's window. The curtain moved. A shadow withdrew. He was watching. Still. Andrew stepped back and whispered the truth they all felt, but didn't dare admit. He already knows we're coming. And as they walked toward the car together, the winter morning no longer felt cold. It felt hunted. The drive to the attorney's office should have been simple. It wasn't. Every mile felt heavier, like the road itself resisted carrying them toward the truth. Snowdrifts lay piled on the shoulders of the highway, glittering beneath the thin winter sun. Bare trees clawed at the sky. The world was drained of color, as if grieving with them. Inside the car, no one spoke. Claire stared out the window, chewing the inside of her cheek. Michael gripped the steering wheel so tightly the leather creaked. Andrew sat in the back beside Lucas, feeling like the car had shrunk around them. Though he tried not to, he kept glancing at Lucas. The quiet, steady way he breathed, the tension in his shoulders, the storm tangled behind his eyes. A brother he never knew, a stranger who knew too much, a reminder of everything they failed to see. When they finally pulled into the small parking lot outside the attorney's building, Michael killed the engine but didn't move. Claire inhaled sharply, as if waking from a trance. Lucas was already reaching for the door. Let's get this over with. Michael shot him a glare. We're doing this for Mom, not for you. Lucas didn't rise to the bait. For all our sakes, he said quietly. Andrew stepped out behind him, boots crunching on the icy pavement. As they walked toward the entrance, he glanced over his shoulder out of habit. There, at the far end of the lot, sat a familiar car. Dark blue. Older model, the neighbor's. Andrew's breath hitched. Guys! But Mr. Fletcher's car door was already shutting, and he was walking toward the building with the same casual warmth he used on their mother. Michael froze. Why the hell is he here? Claire turned pale. Did he follow us? Mr. Fletcher waved cheerfully. Small town, only one attorney. Morning. Lucas's jaw clenched. This isn't coincidence. Mr. Fletcher gave Lucas a polite, empty smile. Ah, Evelyn's guest. Lucas stepped forward, but Andrew placed a steadying hand on his arm. Not now, not here. Mr. Fletcher continued up the walkway, voice dripping with false kindness. I'm here for my own appointment, nothing to do with you. Michael muttered, Sure. As Mr. Fletcher reached the door, he turned, smile fading just a touch. You know, he said softly, grief does strange things, makes people suspicious, paranoid, looking for villains where none exist. Lucas murmured, and sometimes it reveals the villain that was there all along. Mr. Fletcher's eyes sharpened like a blade, just for a fraction of a second, before he pushed the door open and disappeared inside. Andrew whispered, He's scared. Lucas shook his head. No, he's warning us. The attorney, Mr. Ellison, greeted them with a solemn nod when they entered his small, black, wood-paneled office. He was older than Andrew remembered, gray hair too neat, glasses perched low on his nose. I'm sorry we have to meet under these circumstances, he said, gesturing to the chairs. Please, sit. They settled into their seats. Claire's hand trembled as she folded it into her lap. Mr. Ellison opened a thick, weathered folder. Your mother left instructions for a formal reading. Michael leaned forward. We already know she changed the will. Ellison nodded. Yes, 3 weeks before her passing. I oversaw the signing myself. Michael tightened his jaw but said nothing. Ellison continued. She wanted her revisions read aloud, in full. He unfolded several pages, cleared his throat, and began. I, Evelyn Rose Mercer, being of sound mind and memory, do declare this my final last will and testament. The opening was standard, legal, but the tension in the room wound tighter with each line. Then came the first blow. To my children, Michael, Claire, and Andrew, I leave the personal belongings you wish to keep and the assurance that my decisions were made not out of anger, but clarity. Michael stiffened. What the hell does that mean? Ellison raised a hand. There's more. He continued. I cannot erase what you endured. I cannot undo what you did not know. But I can ensure that what was meant for you is protected from what your father left behind. Claire wiped tears from her face. Then Ellison read the line that split the room open. To my firstborn son, Lucas Hale, I leave the Mercer house and all legal responsibility attached to it. Michael exploded out of his chair. She knew the house was worthless. She dumped the debt on him. Claire's voice cracked. Michael, but Ellison kept reading. Lucas, I am giving you the house not as a burden, but as a shield. You are the only one outside my marriage, the only one he cannot reach, even now. Silence rippled through them. Andrew felt the weight of the words settle like stone. Mr. Fletcher's presence, the altered paperwork, the hidden debts, the reason she was afraid. Ellison read on. To my neighbor, Charles Fletcher, I leave nothing. But I leave this warning. Leave my children alone. You have taken too much already. Michael's jaw dropped. Claire covered her mouth in shock. Andrew felt his entire body go cold. Lucas closed his eyes, as if hearing something he'd been waiting for. Ellison cleared his throat, visibly shaken. There is one final note, he read. If anything happens to my children after my death, look to the man who lives closest. The room fell into absolute silence. Andrew felt his pulse in his fingers, his throat, his ears. Michael whispered, She knew. Claire trembled violently. She tried to warn us. Lucas opened his eyes, voice low. She did more than that. She protected you even after she was gone. Mr. Ellison hesitated, then handed Lucas a sealed envelope. She left this for you, and only you. Lucas took it with steady hands. Before anyone could speak, the office door opened. Charles Fletcher stepped inside, calm, polite, smiling. Well, he said softly, I suppose we should all talk. Michael stood instantly. Get out. Fletcher didn't even look at him. His eyes were fixed on Lucas. You think you know what she wanted. Fletcher said, voice chillingly calm. But Evelyn never understood what she really needed protection from. Lucas rose slowly, envelope still in hand. What was that? Fletcher's smile crept wider. Herself. The temperature in the room dropped like ice shattering. Andrew felt something inside him snap. Michael reached for Lucas's arm. Claire gasped. Ellison froze, and Fletcher turned toward the door as if nothing had happened. Do come by later, he murmured. We still have loose ends. He walked out with the same casual ease he used when he brought Evelyn groceries, when he waved at the kids playing outside, when he acted like family. Only now did the air reveal what he really was. Lucas sank slowly back into his chair, eyes locked on the empty doorway. Andrew whispered the truth none of them wanted to say. He's not just dangerous. Lucas nodded once. He's unfinished. The door clicked shut behind Mr. Fletcher, but his presence lingered in the room like a stain that refused to fade. No one moved, not even the attorney. It was as if the winter outside had seeped into their bones, freezing everyone in place. Claire was the first to speak, her voice barely a whisper. What did he mean? She needed protection from herself? Michael rubbed his forehead with both hands. He's trying to rattle us, manipulate us. Lucas didn't answer. He stared at the envelope Evelyn left him, turning it once between his fingers as though it carried its own heartbeat. Andrew watched him, watched the tension wrapped around his shoulders, the silent storm gathering in the space behind his eyes. Open it, Andrew finally said. Lucas exhaled slowly and peeled the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper, thin, fragile, written in Evelyn's unmistakable hand. His eyes scanned it once. His jaw tightened. Then he folded it quickly and slipped it into his coat. What does it say? Claire asked. Lucas shook his head. Not now, Michael bristled. We deserve to know? No, Lucas said sharply. This is not something you want to hear yet. Michael took a step forward. It's about Mom. Everything is about her right now. You don't get to hide things. Lucas stared at him, eyes cold. You've been hiding from the truth your whole life. Don't lecture me about transparency. Michael flinched. Claire stepped between them. Please, not here. Ellison cleared his throat gently, the tension in his face betraying how deeply disturbed he was. There's something else, he said. Mr. Fletcher signed in for appointments 3 times in the last month, always on days your mother wasn't well enough to come. Andrew's stomach twisted. You're saying he impersonated her? He asked. Ellison hesitated. Nothing in writing proves that, but the timing is deeply troubling. Michael paced the room. He forged the will. He stole her mail. He was involved in her finances. Ellison nodded grimly. And, he added, he was the last non-medical visitor she had before her collapse. The room went still. Claire's breath hitched. Are you saying he? Ellison held up a hand. I don't know what happened. I can't make that kind of accusation. Lucas's voice cut through the air like a blade. But you're thinking it. Ellison said nothing. He didn't need to. Michael turned to Lucas. You've dealt with him before. You knew he was dangerous. Why didn't you warn us earlier? Lucas looked away. Because she begged me not to. She said confronting him would only make things worse. For who? Andrew asked softly. Lucas's silence was answer enough. The walk back to the parking lot felt longer than the drive to the office. The cold gnawed at their skin, the sunlight too pale to warm anything. Every step crunched in the snow like a countdown. Mr. Fletcher wasn't in sight. His car, however, remained parked, waiting, watching. When they reached the car, Michael rounded on Lucas. We need to go to the police. Lucas shook his head instantly. Without evidence, without proof of signatures or recordings, he'll turn it around on us. He's already thinking 3 steps ahead. Claire clutched her coat tighter. We can't just do nothing. Lucas's voice dropped into something darker, something earned from a life none of them had lived. People like him don't get taken down by truth. They get taken down by exposure. Andrew felt chills crawl up his arms. Exposure to what? Lucas met his eyes. To the one thing he fears losing, his reputation, his leverage, his illusion of being the harmless neighbor. Michael scoffed. You sound like you've done this before. Lucas's gaze hardened. You grow up where I did. You learn what monsters look like long before they show their teeth. Andrew swallowed. So what's the plan? Lucas glanced back at Ellison's building, then at Fletcher's car. We make him show his hand, he said quietly. We force him to make a mistake. Claire whispered, that sounds dangerous. Lucas didn't deny it. He didn't need to. Michael opened the car door. We go home. Figure this out. Together. Lucas put a hand on the door, stopping him. A shadow crossed his expression, something Andrew hadn't seen before. We shouldn't go home, Lucas said. Michael frowned. Why not? Lucas pointed across the parking lot. At the far corner, nearly invisible behind a row of snow-covered bushes, stood a figure. A man. Tall. Still. Watching them. Andrew felt his pulse jump. Claire choked out a small gasp. Is that? Yes, Lucas said. Mr. Fletcher did not move, did not wave, did not smile. He simply watched them, face unreadable, hands in the pockets of his coat. Michael straightened, jaw tightening. Is he following us? Lucas didn't look away. He wants to see what we do next. Andrew's throat tightened. What should we do? Lucas gave a soft, humorless breath. What I hoped we wouldn't have to. They all looked at him. He stepped closer, voice low and steady, almost gentle. We go back to the house, he said, but not to hide. Claire trembled. Then why? Lucas finally tore his gaze away from the watching figure. To show him we're not scared, Michael whispered. But we are. Lucas shook his head. He can only hurt us if we act like prey. A gust of wind swept through the lot, scattering snow across the asphalt. When Andrew looked back toward the bushes, Mr. Fletcher was gone. Claire stepped closer to Lucas. What did Mom really write in that note? Lucas looked at her. Really looked. His voice softened. She said the danger didn't start when your father died. A pause. It started long before. Andrew stared. Before? Lucas nodded once. And she said the only person who truly knew how far it went. Another pause. Was him. Michael swallowed. Fletcher? Lucas shook his head. A beat. The person he was trying to protect. The cold sharpened around them. Protect who? Lucas's eyes flickered with something painful and deeply reluctant. He looked at all three siblings, then said, quiet as snow, your father. The world felt suddenly, instantly colder, as if winter itself had been waiting for them to hear those words. And before any of them could speak, the wind gusted again, revealing a fresh set of footprints leading away from the bushes. Fresh, deep, headed straight toward the Mercer house. Here is your continuation, written exactly in narrative form. No commentary, no extra questions, no added instructions, just the story itself as you require. No one moved, not for several seconds. The set of footprints carved through the fresh snow, leading away from the attorney's parking lot, curling around the side of the building, disappearing into the tree line that pointed squarely toward the Mercer house, held them frozen in place. Michael finally whispered, this doesn't make sense. Fletcher was just here. He couldn't have. He didn't have to, Lucas said quietly. Someone else is involved. Claire shook her head, panic rising. Someone else? Who? We don't have any enemies. Lucas looked at her, softly, almost sadly. You'd be surprised how many enemies a family can make without noticing. Michael glared. Stop speaking in riddles. Andrew knelt beside the tracks, examining them carefully. The prints were large, booted, purposeful. But something was off, something he couldn't name at first. Then he saw it. They're heavy, Andrew said. Look at the depth. Whoever walked here, they weigh more than Fletcher does. Lucas crouched beside him. Good catch, Michael frowned. So it's not him? Lucas shook his head. No, but someone he trusts enough to send. Claire's voice trembled. Why would he send anyone? Lucas rose slowly. Because Fletcher doesn't do his own dirty work. He never did. Something cold settled in Andrew's gut. He's trying to protect the person who mattered most to him, even after the man died. He's protecting your father. Lucas's earlier words echoed like a heartbeat in his ears. Michael's voice cut through the silence. We can't stand here all day. We need to get home. If someone's there. We don't walk into an ambush, Lucas snapped. Michael bristled. You think someone's inside the house now? Lucas pointed toward the tree line. Those prints are fresh. Whoever made them is either watching the house or already inside. Claire clutched Andrew's arm, shaking. We have to call the police. Lucas hesitated. Michael exploded. Why are you hesitating? Because without evidence, Lucas said, voice tight, the police will talk to Fletcher, not investigate him. And Fletcher will make sure we look paranoid, unhinged, or worse. Andrew swallowed. So what do we do? Lucas's eyes hardened with reluctant certainty. We go home, together, carefully. Michael shook his head. If someone's inside, then we don't let them catch us by surprise. Claire's voice cracked. This is insane. Lucas held her gaze. If you want to leave now, you can. Andrew can drive you to stay with a friend. No, Claire said immediately. I'm not leaving you. Lucas blinked, surprised by the loyalty in her tone. Andrew checked the tracks again, scanning the tree line. Let's go! Slowly. The drive back felt claustrophobic. The footpaths of snow on the road blurred through the windows. Michael kept glancing at the rearview mirror. Claire kept wringing her hands. Andrew watched out the side windows for movement. Lucas didn't take his eyes off the horizon. As the Mercer house came into view, all four of them leaned forward. Nothing looked disturbed. The snow on the driveway was untouched. The windows dark. The porch empty. But Andrew felt something wrong in the air, an unsettling quiet pressing against the siding of the house. Michael parked at the curb, not in the driveway. Lucas nodded approvingly. Good. Don't get boxed in. Claire whispered, How do we know if someone got inside? Lucas's answer was simple. You don't. He stepped out of the car first. The cold bit at their faces. The silent street stretched out, empty, except for the faint sound of wind scraping across roofs. Lucas approached the front door slowly, eyes sharp, posture steady. He stopped just short of the porch steps. There's no fresh snow on the doormat, he said. Whoever came here didn't enter through the front. Michael frowned. Back door? Lucas didn't answer. Just moved silently around the house, the siblings close behind like shadows. At the back porch, Andrew felt his breath catch. The snow there was disturbed, just a little. Not enough to be obvious. Just enough for someone who was looking. Lucas crouched. One footprint, the rest covered with snow. Someone scraped their tracks. Claire whispered, Why? Michael's voice dropped, Because they didn't want us to know they came in. Lucas tested the back door handle. Unlocked. Michael swore. I locked it before we left. Not good enough, Lucas said. He slowly pushed the door open. The kitchen was dark, cold, still. Andrew felt his pulse in his throat. Claire clung to his sleeve. Lucas stepped inside first, silent as a shadow, scanning each corner with a methodical precision that told Andrew he'd done this before. Maybe too many times. Kitchen clear, Lucas said softly. Michael, watch the back door. Andrew, stay with Claire. But Andrew shook his head. No, I'm not leaving you alone in here. Lucas gave him a look, one that flickered with confusion, then something almost like respect. He nodded. They moved into the dining room. Clear. Through the narrow hallway. Clear. Living room. Still, untouched. Except, Claire gasped. On the coffee table lay a small object, a silver key. Andrew stepped forward slowly. Is that? Lucas picked it up with gloved fingers. It was an old-fashioned house key. Not theirs. Lucas held it up to the light. This key doesn't match any lock in this house, he murmured. Michael frowned. Then what is it? Lucas turned the key over. There was a tiny metal tag attached, scratched, old, faintly engraved. Andrew squinted, then froze. It's an address. Claire leaned in, voice trembling. What address? Lucas read it aloud. Riverside Storage, Unit 14B. Michael whispered. Dad had a storage unit. Andrew's heart pounded. He always kept things there. Old paperwork, tools, boxes from his past. Mom never went. Lucas pocketed the key. That's where the answers are. Claire shook her head. But who left it here? The wind howled against the windows, rattling them sharply. Too sharply. All four of them turned. For a split second, someone stood at the edge of the yard, a tall silhouette. Still, watching. Then it stepped back into the shadows and vanished. Claire's voice cracked. Was that Fletcher? Lucas didn't blink. No, he said quietly. That wasn't him. Andrew swallowed hard. Then who? Lucas's expression darkened with a truth he hated. The only person Fletcher ever answered to. Silence roared between them. Michael forced the words out. Who? Lucas met their eyes with a voice low and final. Your father's old business partner. The one who disappeared right before your family fell apart. Claire clamped a trembling hand over her mouth. Andrew felt the room tilt. Michael whispered, But he's been dead for years. Lucas shook his head slowly. No, he said, he's not. And he wants us to find what your father left behind. The drive to Riverside Storage felt like crossing into another life, one Evelyn never talked about, one their father buried beneath errands, excuses, and neatly folded lies. The facility sat on the outskirts of town, hidden behind a row of dead pines and a sagging chain-link fence. Rows of rusted metal units stretched into the distance, each one numbered with peeling white paint. Unit 14B was near the back, far from the street, far from help, far from witnesses. Lucas stepped out of the car first, scanning the perimeter with that same wary precision that made Andrew both uneasy and oddly grateful. Michael pocketed his phone. We should call someone. Who? Lucas replied without turning. The police? Fletcher? A lawyer who can't protect you? Michael didn't answer. Claire hugged her coat tighter, breath unsteady. I don't like this place. Andrew didn't either. The air here was wrong, still heavy, as if holding its breath. Lucas approached the row of units, stopping at 14B. The faded blue door was dusted with frost, the lock rusted but intact. He held up the key they'd found. This doesn't mean the unit is safe, Lucas said quietly. It only means someone wanted you to open it. Andrew's throat tightened. Someone like Dad's old partner. Lucas nodded once, or someone who wants us to think it's him. A gust of wind sliced through the row, whistling across the thin metal walls. Claire shivered violently. Michael stepped closer. All right, let's do this. Lucas inserted the key. It turned too easily. Click. The sound echoed down the corridor like a warning. Michael swallowed. Open it. Lucas lifted the door slowly. The hinges groaned, protesting years of disuse until the door rolled high enough for them to see inside. Claire gasped. Andrew stopped breathing for a moment. The unit wasn't empty. It was curated. Inside were boxes stacked neatly along the walls. A workbench sat in the back, littered with old tools and weathered binders. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, flickering weakly. And on the floor, in the center of the concrete, was a metal folding chair. Just one, facing the doorway, as if waiting. Michael whispered, "What the hell is this?" Lucas stepped inside first, checking corners, scanning shadows, listening. When he finally nodded, the others followed, slowly, carefully, as though stepping into a memory that didn't belong to them. Andrew's eyes drifted across the workbench. Old receipts, yellowing paperwork, a cracked picture frame lying face down. He turned it over. It was a photo of their father and a man Andrew faintly remembered. Broad-shouldered, sharp-eyed, always hovering in the background during holidays. His father's business partner, the man who moved away, the man who died in a car crash. But the date on the back of the photo was recent, too recent. Claire's voice trembled. Look at this. She held up a stack of eviction notices, none addressed to their father, but to someone with a different name. The partner, living under an alias. Michael rummaged through a box near the back. Why would Dad keep all this? Because he wasn't keeping it, Lucas said, pulling a folder from a shelf. He was hiding it. Claire pressed a shaking hand to her mouth. Hiding it from who? Lucas opened the folder. Inside were pages of financial records, detailed, meticulous, incriminating, money transfers, business deals, insurance claims. And then Andrew saw it, a photocopy of Evelyn's signature, repeated, practiced, forged. Claire sobbed. This is Dad's handwriting. Michael backed away, face pale, shaking. No, this is manipulation. It has to be. Lucas laid another page beside it, a comparison sheet. Left column, Evelyn's real signature. Right column, the forgery. Highlighted. Matched. Identical. Andrew whispered, Dad forged her name for years. Lucas nodded. And his partner helped him hide it. Claire buried her face in her hands. Andrew felt something break deep inside him. A small, sharp crack that echoed through the hollow places he didn't know were there. Michael punched the metal wall hard enough to ring the unit. Why? Why would he do this to her? Lucas didn't answer at first. Then he needed leverage. The word hung in the cold air. Andrew frowned. Leverage for what? Lucas picked up another binder. It was newer, cleaner, more deliberate. He opened it and froze. Andrew stepped closer. Inside were photos. Not old ones, not memories. Surveillance of their mother, taken from afar, taken from angles that made Andrew's blood turn to ice. One of her at the grocery store, one of her walking to the mailbox, one taken from the tree line behind the Mercer house. Claire whispered, he was watching her. Lucas's voice cracked, a rare thing. For months, Michael swore under his breath. Fletcher. No, Lucas said, eyes scanning each image. Some are too early. Before Fletcher got involved, someone else took these. He flipped the page. More photos. And then, one that wasn't of Evelyn. It was of Claire, walking home from work at dusk. Claire staggered back. No, that's not possible. Lucas flipped again. One of Andrew, from behind the gas station where he worked nights 2 years ago. Andrew felt bile rise in his throat. The last page made Lucas's hands go rigid. A shot of Michael, leaning into his car, taken from less than 30 feet away. Michael froze. They were watching all of us, he whispered. Years ago. Lucas nodded grimly. Whoever was behind your father's debts didn't disappear. They've been waiting, tracking you, and your mother knew. Claire grabbed Andrew's arm. We need to leave. Now, someone could be coming back for this. Lucas closed the binder. He's right. Michael stepped back toward the door. Grab what we can and go. But Lucas didn't move. He stared at something pinned to the back wall, a small piece of paper held by a lone rusted tack. The edges were torn, the ink faint. He pulled it free. Andrew watched his expression shift, slowly, painfully. Claire whispered. Lucas handed it to Andrew. It was a note, written in a hurried, shaky hand. You can't protect them forever. I want back what he stole from me. They know nothing. Let them stay that way. If you tell them, I'll finish what I started. J. Andrew felt his hands go cold. Michael whispered, Who the hell is Jay? Lucas closed his eyes. The partner, he said. His name was Jacob, before he vanished. Claire looked around the storage unit as if Jacob might step out from between the shadows right now. Andrew felt the air shift, an instinctive cold crawling up his spine. We have to go, Andrew said. Now. Lucas nodded. But just as they turned toward the door, a shadow moved across the snow outside. Slow, deliberate, waiting. Claire gasped. He's here. Lucas raised a hand silently, signaling them to stay still. The shadow paused. Then another joined it. 2 silhouettes now. And then a crunch of snow. Soft, closer. Andrew's heart slammed. Lucas whispered, They're blocking the exit. Michael's voice cracked. What do we do? Lucas stepped forward, grabbing the metal bar of the storage door. Pop, we go out the front, he said quietly. Claire panicked. They're right there. Lucas nodded. I know. Andrew swallowed hard. Lucas. Lucas looked at him with a calm Andrew didn't understand. Trust me. Then, in one swift movement, Lucas rolled the metal door upward, and the winter light flooded in like an explosion. The storage unit door rolled up in one violent sweep, shrieking along its track before slamming open against the ceiling. Winter light burst in, blinding, white, merciless. For a heartbeat, no one moved. 2 silhouettes stood in the doorway, dark against the snow, motionless except for the faint rise and fall of breath. Lucas didn't flinch, his posture steady, one hand slightly lifted behind him, a silent warning for the Mercers to stay back. Michael pulled Claire behind him. Andrew instinctively mirrored Lucas's stance, even though he had no idea what he was doing, only that he wouldn't leave Lucas alone. The taller silhouette stepped forward. Not Fletcher, not Jacob. Someone younger, broader in the shoulders. Thick winter coat pulled tight. The other followed. Smaller, lighter on their feet. Both wore gloves. Both kept their hands in their pockets. Lucas's voice cut through the freezing air, calm and razor sharp. You're blocking the wrong unit. The taller man paused, his breath fogged out in a heavy cloud. Then he spoke, voice deep, gravelly, strangely familiar. We're not looking for you. Lucas didn't blink. You picked the wrong day to lie. The second figure shifted, uneasy. Andrew noticed their boots first, expensive, clean, no wear on the soles. Definitely not drifters, not thieves. People with resources, intent, purpose. Michael's voice cracked from behind Lucas. Who are you? The taller silhouette turned toward the voice slowly, as if annoyed by the question. Then he stepped fully into the light. Andrew felt his stomach drop. The man couldn't have been more than 40, clean cut, dark hair buzzed short. A scar slicing across his jawline like a knife had once tried to silence him. And his eyes, cold, focused, emotionless. The kind of eyes that had seen violence and never looked away. He reached into his coat. Claire gasped. Michael tensed. But the man only pulled out a folded piece of paper. He held it up between 2 gloved fingers. This belongs to you, he said. Lucas didn't move. Put it on the ground. A faint smile tugged at the man's mouth. You think this is a negotiation? Lucas stayed perfectly still. I know it is. A long beat passed. Wind scraped across the metal units. The second figure shifted anxiously. Finally, the tall man crouched, slow, deliberate, and placed the paper on the snow. Take it, he said. Then leave. That's all. Lucas didn't move. Andrew stepped closer, voice low but steady. Why should we trust you? The man's expression didn't change. You shouldn't. The smaller messenger, barely older than 20, nervous in the shoulders, spoke suddenly. We're just messengers, okay? We don't want trouble. Lucas's eyes narrowed. Who sent you? Neither answered. The taller man straightened. Take the paper, then walk away. That's the only protection you get today. Claire trembled behind Michael. Protection from who? Lucas exhaled through his nose, a quiet, frustrated sound. From Jacob, he said. The younger messenger flinched. The tall one stiffened for half a second. Confirmation. Andrew's pulse hammered. Michael stepped forward. Jacob's dead. The tall man gave a soft, almost pitying laugh. People like him don't die. They wait. Claire's knees buckled slightly. Andrew steadied her with a hand. Why now? Andrew asked. Why send you? Why leave us a key? Why watch our house? The man's jaw flexed once. Because you opened something that should have stayed closed, and now you have things he wants. We don't have anything, Michael snapped. The messenger tilted his head, studying him. That's what your father said, he murmured, right before he vanished. Lucas's jaw clenched. Claire whispered, Vanished? Not died? The tall man's eyes sharpened. People only die when someone wants them gone. A tremor passed through Andrew's chest, through Michael's hands, through Claire's breath. Lucas took a step forward. What does Jacob want? The tall man finally showed a hint of emotion, fear, but buried it quickly. He wants what he's owed. And what's that? Lucas pressed. For the first time, the tall man hesitated. Then he said, You'll find it in the letter. He turned as if finished, but paused, just once, to look directly at Andrew. And Andrew felt it like ice sliding down his spine. He told us to watch you, the man said. Not the others, you. Andrew froze. Me? Why? The man didn't blink. Ask your father. But the man cut him off. If he were dead, none of us would be here. Silence hit like a blow. Andrew's breath stuttered. Lucas took half a step closer. Tell Jacob we're not running. The taller man's expression softened into something unsettling, almost sorry. You already are, he said. You just don't realize where you're running to. He tapped the side of the storage unit. Look harder. Your father left more than secrets. Then he turned sharply and walked away, steps crisp against the snow. The younger messenger scrambled after him, glancing back once with fear-shaped eyes. A few seconds later, both were gone, absorbed into the rows of metal units and the dead pines beyond. No engine started. No doors slammed. They simply vanished. Claire collapsed into Andrew's arms, shaking uncontrollably. Michael whispered, What the hell is happening to us? Lucas crouched and retrieved the folded paper from the snow. He opened it, read one line, and his entire expression changed. He froze so completely that Andrew felt terror claw up his throat. What does it say? Andrew whispered. Lucas didn't look up. Lucas, he swallowed. Finally, he lifted his eyes, voice barely audible. It says he knows who really killed your father. The paper trembled in Lucas's hand. Not from the cold, from the truth etched across it. Michael stepped forward first, voice cracking with impatience and dread. What do you mean he knows who killed our father? Dad had a heart attack. Lucas didn't answer immediately. He seemed to be weighing something, measuring the cost of saying things that couldn't be unsaid. Finally, he lifted the paper and read aloud. Tell the 3 Mercer children I can give them the name of their father's killer, but only the youngest will understand why. Andrew felt the air leave his lungs, a slow, hollow exhale that didn't stop. Claire's voice trembled. Andrew, he's talking about you. Michael shook his head violently. This is manipulation. Jacob's messing with us. He wants to scare us. He already has, Claire whispered. Andrew stared at the sentence again. Only the youngest will understand why. It felt like a hand closing around his throat. Lucas folded the paper and slipped it into his coat. We need to get home. We can't stay exposed. No, Michael said. Not until you tell us the rest. There is no rest, Lucas said sharply. This message was meant to destabilize you, and it's working. Don't give Jacob what he wants. Michael stepped forward, fists clenching. If you know something. I don't, Lucas snapped. But I know his methods. He breaks families before he breaks people. Fear is leverage to him. Andrew swallowed, voice barely audible. Why would I understand? I don't know anything about dads. The rest of the sentence died on his tongue, because something flickered at the edge of his memory. Something small. Something that never made sense. A sound. A smell. A night he tried to forget. He pressed a hand to his forehead, dizzy. Andrew? Claire reached for him. What is it? I don't know. But he did know. He just didn't have the shape of it yet. Lucas stepped close, lowering his voice. Think later. Move now. The drive back to the house was silent again, but not like before. This silence was crowded, filled with eyes that weren't inside the car, filled with footsteps in the snow, filled with threats whispered on folded paper. Claire stared out her window, tears frozen on her cheeks. Michael kept his jaw clenched so tight a vein pulsed at his temple. Andrew pressed his palms to his knees to stop the shaking. Lucas watched the road behind them in the mirror, scanning for tailing cars with a soldier's instinct. Sharp, trained, unrelenting. When they pulled up to the Mercer house, Lucas spoke without looking away from the mirror. "Someone's been inside." Claire gasped. "How do you know?" Lucas pointed with his chin. "Curtains. Living room. They're parted." Michael frowned. "I didn't open them." "And they weren't open when we left," Andrew added. Claire whispered, "So someone is in there right now?" "Or was," Lucas corrected. "Either way, we go in slow." They stepped out carefully, boots crunching softly on the frozen ground. The world around them felt hollow, too still, too quiet, as if the neighborhood itself knew what the Mercers didn't. As Lucas reached the porch, he lifted a hand, motioning for silence. His posture shifted, tight, alert, listening. Then he opened the front door. The house was colder than before. Not winter cold, empty cold, abandoned cold. The kind that comes after someone leaves quickly. Lucas swept through the living room first, checking corners. Michael darted to the hallway. "Nothing's missing." Claire approached the parted curtains. "Why open these?" Andrew turned slowly in the center of the room, scanning everything. A feeling tugged at him, soft at first, then urgent. "Something's wrong," he murmured. Lucas nodded. "Yes, something's." But Andrew wasn't looking at the walls or doors. He was looking at the floor. There, beneath the curtain rod, something glinted faintly. He crouched, heart pounding, and picked it up. A silver object, thin, long, delicate. A bracelet. His mother's bracelet. The one she wore every day. The one she wasn't wearing when she died. He whispered, "This was with her jewelry, in her room." Claire gasped. "Why is it here?" Lucas took it gently, examining the clasp. "It's broken, torn off." Michael froze. "During her fall?" "No," Lucas murmured. "This broke clean, not from a fall, from force." Andrew felt nausea surge so fast he nearly choked. "Someone was here," he said. "Someone wanted us to find this." Lucas nodded. Michael's eyes narrowed. "What does it mean?" Lucas hesitated. Then he answered, "It means your mother fought someone before she died." The room went silent. Claire collapsed into a chair, covering her mouth. Michael staggered back, chest heaving. Andrew felt the world tilt. "How do you know?" Andrew whispered. Lucas turned the bracelet over. "There's blood in the clasp." Andrew stared. Not brown, not old, fresh, deep red, as if it had been placed here moments before they arrived. Claire sobbed. "Whose blood is it?" Lucas looked at her with steady, brutal honesty. "Not hers." Michael's voice shook. "Then whose?" Lucas lifted his head. He was staring at the front door. Footprints. Just inside the threshold. Deep, precise, fresh. And this time, they matched the same boots from the storage facility. Andrew felt the air collapse around him. "They followed us home." Lucas didn't breathe for a full second. Then, "No," he said. "They got here first." He knelt to examine the prints, tracing the edges with a careful finger. And then Andrew saw something that made his blood run cold. The prints weren't walking into the house. They were walking out of it. Claire whispered, "They were inside before, and they waited until we left." "And then," Andrew finished softly, "they slipped out right before we got back." Michael slammed a fist into the wall. "Why keep doing this? Why play games?" Lucas stood slowly, holding the broken bracelet. "This isn't a game," he said. "It's a message." Andrew swallowed hard. "What message?" Lucas turned to him, eyes dark with dread. "A warning." He held out the bracelet, the blood glinting faintly. "Jacob wants what your father took. And if we find it—" He paused. Then he said the words that hollowed out the room. "He won't be the only one coming for you." Andrew whispered, "Then who else?" Lucas met his eyes, voice low and final. "The person who killed your father." Snow fell hard that night, thick, soundless, relentless. It blanketed the Mercer house in white, covering the footprints, the driveway, the roads leading in and out of town, as though winter wanted to erase the evidence of everything that had been stirred awake. Inside, the house split itself into pockets of silence. Michael paced the hallway like it was a cage. Claire sat curled in an armchair, knees drawn up, blanket pulled tight. Lucas leaned against the wall, arms folded, face unreadable. Andrew stood alone in the kitchen, holding the broken bracelet, holding the truth, holding the weight of everything he hadn't dared understand until now. The blood dried inside the clasp was not Evelyn's, which meant someone had fought her, and she had torn this from their wrist or hand or sleeve. Someone who had been in the house recently, someone who had followed them, someone who wasn't afraid to leave a message behind. Someone his mother once trusted. Someone his father trusted even more. And then the realization hit Andrew like a cold slap. If Jacob had wanted the bracelet, he would have taken it back. He left it here because it wasn't meant for him. It was meant for the Mercers. Specifically, Andrew. He stared at the bracelet as if it might whisper an answer. And then he remembered something. A memory he'd buried so deeply it felt like it belonged to another life. A night years ago. He was 12. His father had staggered home late, after midnight, his shirt torn, his knuckles scraped, blood under his nails. Andrew had woken to the sound of him whispering on the phone, a voice thick with fear. He knows. I don't have it. I swear, I didn't keep anything. It's not here. Search the damn house if you want. Andrew hadn't known who he was, only that the name Jacob had hissed across the receiver like a threat, and his father hadn't said Evelyn's name once. Not even when she begged him to stop pacing, to stop yelling, to stop. Andrew squeezed his eyes shut. No, he whispered. Claire looked over from the armchair. Andrew? His breath shook. He opened his eyes. I remember something. Michael, Claire, Lucas all turned toward him. Andrew swallowed hard. Dad hid something in the house, years ago. I heard him talking about it, fighting about it. Michael shook his head. You were a kid. You heard wrong. No, Andrew said, firmer. I didn't. He pointed toward the far end of the hallway. Mom's old sewing room. That's where he kept it. Claire stiffened. Why there? Andrew's voice dropped. Because he said Jacob would never think to look in a room that belonged only to her. Lucas stepped forward. Show me. The sewing room had been untouched for years. Evelyn hadn't sewn after her hands began to shake. Spiderwebs lined the corners. Dust coated the sewing machine. Fabric scraps remained folded in piles, frozen in time. Lucas scanned the room like a soldier sweeping a battlefield. Close the door, he said softly. Andrew shut it. Michael flicked the light switch. Flicker, flicker. Dim yellow light pooled across the floor. Lucas stepped to the center of the room and tapped the floorboards with the toe of his boot, one by one, until hollow. Andrew swallowed. That's it. That's the sound. Lucas knelt, pried up the board with a screwdriver pulled from his coat. The board lifted. Underneath, a wooden box, old, cracked, wrapped in tape. Michael breathed out a single shaky curse. Claire reached for Andrew's hand. Lucas lifted the box and set it on the sewing table. He nodded once. Michael opened it. Inside, a stack of envelopes, thick, sealed, marked with dates stretching back nearly 25 years. And under them, a gun, wrapped in a handkerchief. Claire gasped. Oh, God. Andrew stared at it, throat tight. Dad never owned a gun. Lucas shook his head. Not legally. Michael pushed the envelopes aside. Open them. Andrew grabbed the first one, hands shaking. Inside were documents, deeds, receipts, contracts, every piece of paper tied to the financial fraud Jacob and their father built together. Evidence, all of it. Enough to destroy Jacob, enough to destroy Fletcher, enough to destroy everyone. Claire whispered, Mom knew about this? Lucas nodded. She found the box after he died. She didn't know what to do with it. If she destroyed it, it wouldn't stop Jacob. If she kept it, it tied her to everything. She hid it because she had no one she could trust, not even her children. Michael flinched like he'd been slapped. Lucas examined the gun last. He unfolded the handkerchief. Something fell out, a Polaroid photograph. Andrew picked it up. His stomach dropped. It was their father, lying on the kitchen floor, eyes open, not breathing, and a bruise on his throat, deep, purple, finger-shaped. Claire screamed. Michael staggered back. Lucas closed his eyes. Andrew's whisper cracked in half. He didn't die of a heart attack. Lucas nodded. He was strangled. Michael choked. By who? Lucas looked at the photograph's bottom edge, where someone had written 2 letters. E.M. Claire gasped through her tears. Mom? No, she couldn't. Michael shook his head violently. No, Jacob forged that. This isn't real. It can't be. Andrew felt the floor tilt beneath him. Breathing became impossible. Lucas spoke softly, painfully. That's not Evelyn's handwriting. Andrew stared. And then he saw it. Sharp letters, hard edges, heavy pressure marks. A man's handwriting, not hers. Lucas looked at all 3 of them. Your father wrote his own accusation. Michael whispered, Why? Lucas answered, To blame her if Jacob found the body first. Claire covered her face and sobbed. He knew Jacob was coming for him. Andrew felt something break inside his chest. A truth he never wanted but couldn't escape. He tried to frame her. Lucas nodded. And she knew. She didn't tell you because she didn't want you to hate him. Michael whispered. So, who killed him? Lucas set the gun down. He did. Andrew shook his head. What? No. He turned the gun on himself, Lucas said quietly. Not to die by it, to hide the bruise, to make it look like a heart attack. But he wasn't fast enough. Someone found him before he pulled the trigger. Claire trembled uncontrollably. Who? Lucas inhaled deeply. The same person who unlocked the back door. The same person who stole your mother's mail. The same person whose blood was on the bracelet. The same person who left the storage key. Michael whispered, Fletcher. Lucas nodded once. And Jacob sent him. Silence filled the room. Deep, total, final. Andrew looked at the box again. The letters, the gun, the lies. What do we do now? He whispered. Lucas stared at the evidence. Now, he said quietly, you decide if you want to keep the truth or survive it. Andrew swallowed hard. What would Mom want? Lucas met his eyes. She'd want you alive. Michael sank onto the floor, head in his hands. Claire wept into Andrew's shoulder. And Lucas, the outsider, the forgotten son, the hidden child. He picked up the box slowly, held it with both hands, and whispered, She tried to save all of you, even him, even me. The house groaned with winter wind. Somewhere outside, a car engine started. Low, slow, waiting. Lucas glanced toward the window. He knows we found it. Andrew's blood ran cold. Jacob? Lucas shook his head. No. He nodded toward the front yard. Fletcher. Then the lights in the house flickered, once, twice, and went out, leaving the four of them in darkness, with the box of truth between them and the man who killed their father waiting outside.